Well, thank you for being here today. It is a delight to see so many in this space on this beautiful, humid, I don't know actually if it's humid outside, but it definitely is warm. Warmer than when I arrived here earlier in the week when it was 30 degrees one morning. So it just is very nostalgic to come back and feel the true swings of Virginia weather. Well, I opened today's program with truly one of my favorite pieces that I play in any service. I mean, I don't typically play it in a worship service, but a wedding service. And it became a very traditional favorite here at First Presbyterian for many weddings that I played for. It was either that or the Vita Toccata. And so this piece particularly, I like to play it in a recital because it allows people to hear that there's much more to it than those first 5 measures, that we all are so recognizable. There's a very orchestral. And the history behind the piece itself is that it was actually written by Mendelssohn as what they call incidental music, which was background music for Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream, to just help make things a little bit more interesting. But it became known as the wedding march, particularly worldwide, once Queen Victoria's eldest daughter, Princess Victoria, got married and chose that as her recessional. And so that's why now it is played at almost every wedding all the time when people are leaving the altar. So I thought that was a wonderful piece to open with so you could hear just a little bit of that. The majority of the program today are pieces that I chose that I enjoyed playing here in this space. That's why I chose the program I did. You'll see a lot of variety of a lot of hymn tunes, a lot of classical pieces, but things that I thought that sounded well in this room, and also that I loved playing on this organ, and also the organ before it, the Moeller organ that used to be here as well. I'll also spend a little bit of time in between pieces talking about the pieces, but also talking a little bit about the organ. How did this organ, which has only been in place now for just a little over 2.5 years, how did it come to be, and what are some interesting facts? So you can leave here today feeling like you know just a little bit more about the pipe organ, and particularly this pipe organ here at First Presbyterian. I'll continue the program today with the festive trumpet tune. This is by David German. This is a very simple trumpet tune, but I chose this because it demonstrates the reed stops on the organ. So reed stops are what we in the organ world refer to as what you might hear as a trumpet stop or a trumpet sound. It opens with the big tuba that we have on this organ, and then you'll hear in the middle section, in the minor section, the full chorus reeds. You'll hear everything in every octave. So listen for that and enjoy the festive trumpet tune. classic. Particularly, I always like to program something by Johann Sebastian Bach on the programs. This one, his setting of Nun komm der Heiden Heiland, or Come Savior of the Nations, we often would hear during the Advent season. This comes from Bach's collection called the Leipzig Chorales, meaning where they were written. And for me, this is one of 3 of my favorite settings of this chorale tune. And when we said chorale tune, what we mean is you'll hear the accompaniment, but then a nice ornamented version of the hymn tune that we might recognize as Nun komm der Heiden Heiland. This one in particular shows off some of the stops, solo color there, but also is, I think, in the organ world looked at as a very singing version of this. You'll hear almost as if the organ was speaking and singing to you as you listen to this particular setting of Bach's chorale tune. So please enjoy Nun komm der Heiden Heiland. Thank you. Get us in the Advent spirit in May. That's the whole point. We'll continue on with the program today. Before I play the next piece, I'd like to talk just for a second about the organ. So this organ was built by the Foley Baker Company of Tolland, Connecticut, and finished really in 2022. So it's been almost 4 years really since we would say it was completed. It takes quite a while from the time that they build it in the shop to put it into the sanctuary itself. And it was a wonderful project to observe. The organ before was a Moeller from the original building from 1950, was back in this back corner where the piano is now. Many of you remember that if you've been here for that long, which hopefully you have been, which is great. When we decided to move forward with an organ project, and we got a committee together, just like Presbyterians do, we made sure that we looked at everything that we needed to make a good decision about the future of the instrument. And one element that I'll highlight was that the console being stationary back in the back corner of the sanctuary presented several challenges for an organist, choir director to be able to maybe direct the choir or to perform an organ concert. We'd have to set up video screens, and we wanted some flexibility with where the console could be. So this brand new console was built, and the place of the organ was switched from the back corner to this front spot. Not here, it's usually parked right here behind this railing for worship, but also have the ability to be on wheels and to roll out to the front and center if it needed to be, like for an occasion today. So you can see the organ, because when you're in the sanctuary, you don't see the beauty of this really piece of furniture. It's absolutely beautiful. If you come up and notice, you'll see lots of elements that are tied into the panels that are around in the room. The curves and things were very reminiscent of the pews in the sanctuary as well. So there was a lot of intricate detail that went into the console. But probably the best part is, my favorite part, is that it actually has brakes. So if you press these buttons, you won't roll off the stage. It's a wonderful feature and very needed. So we'll continue the program today by hearing a fiery version of a toccata on Praise Ye the Lord the Almighty, or Lob den Herren, which is the tune name for it. This is by Craig Phillips. He's a contemporary composer, and my challenge to you is to try to find the melody. That's the key here. I'll give you a clue. Most of the time, it's either in the louder voices that you'll hear, or it's very slowly being played in the pedal through the bass notes. So here's toccata on Lob den Herren. Thank you. That also demonstrates a lot of the power in the bass. Something that was lacking in our original instrument with the Moeller instrument was that there was a lot of foundation that was just missing. Over time, some things had been changed, especially just going with the styles of the time, where there was a lot of focus on the upper work, as we call it, but not as much focus on the foundation or principal stops on this organ. And so there were several that were added. First of all, just making sure that we had those foundation stops, a whole chorus of them on each division, especially went well for helping accompany the choir. So that gave you a good taste of full organ. There's plenty more of full organ to come in the program tonight. I'd like to continue by playing George Thalbenball's Elegy. This has become one of my favorite lyrical pieces because it's not just quiet in volume throughout most of the piece. It's very reflective, but it shows a major crescendo, but in a lyrical style towards the end. The story behind this is actually very interesting of how this came to be. During a religious broadcast on the BBC, George Thalbenball was the organist for this religious service that was being broadcasted. And they ended a little bit early. And so in that time, and still in this time, I guess if you're going for a live broadcast, if you end early, the organist is expected to improvise for just a few minutes to help fill the time. Well, he improvised to this piece and didn't think much of it. Well, the BBC was flooded with calls asking for what was the name of that piece and where can I get a copy of it. And so he wrote it down to the best of his memory, and it has since become a favorite amongst in the English world and over here on instruments that I think do it beautifully well, such as this one. Thank you. Truly a lovely piece. Another couple notes about the organ. So in this particular space, many times people walk in here and they look in the back and they see those pipes back there above the back door and they think, well, there's the organ. Well, that's part of it, but it's a very small part of it. In fact, it's probably only about 8% of the total pipe count of the whole instrument, where we have nearly 3,500 pipes that are housed in chambers on both sides up here in the chancel. So it's a very unique space, whereas most of the time you walk in and if there's a pipe organ, you see a facade of some kind. Part of the organ committee's task was to decide if maybe it was appropriate to explore the possibility of putting a facade of pipes up here. We saw several different renderings of where they would build out a case and build up, or put pipes along the side above the pulpit and lectern on this end. And after a lot of thought and a lot of deliberation, it just came down to, it just looks extremely unnatural in the space. And so they left it the way it was, and Foley Baker took and went full speed and made everything fit. They made it fit so tightly that when the drywall delivery showed up and it was half-inch drywall, where it was supposed to be quarter-inch drywall, they had to send it back, because that's how tight everything fits up inside in those chambers. So everything was beautifully done inside. If you ever feel brave enough, ask Josh and he'll give you a tour. I didn't ask Josh permission to say that, but I just did. So he'll give you a tour of the chambers up here. They are actually, it's really cool to see. The way the organ is powered is by a massive blower that pressurizes all of the chests in the chambers here. Well, where is that blower located? Most of the time it's located in a basement. Well, there's no basement in this sanctuary or even anywhere near here. So the blower room itself is actually right behind the cross up there, the big cross. It's in the attic, essentially. So if you want a tour of that room, that's 2 stories to go up little ladders. Ask Josh. It really is. It's a beautiful room, and it is a big blower that helps everything on this organ run smoothly. I'm going to turn next to somewhat of a fun part of the program. I think it's very appropriate for the time of year and the 250 celebration of America. I'm going to play John Philip Sousa's Liberty Bell March. Now, here's the thing about this particular march. John Philip Sousa, of course, is known as the king of marches, wrote lots and lots of those. The Liberty Bell March became very recognizable. And I couldn't remember when I first started playing it, well, where have I heard this before? Where have I heard this before? Not just anywhere in a parade or something. And so I read more about it and realized that it was composed in 1893. So I thought, well, I obviously didn't hear it on the radio when it first came out. So I continued to think more about it, and I finally found out the answer to why it sounded so familiar. It's probably recognizable to everybody, because it became the theme song in 1969 to Monty Python's Flying Circus. So if you've ever watched Monty Python, or you will watch Monty Python, you'll probably hear the Liberty Bell March. Now, the only thing I need to say about that is you just can't call me when you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and it's playing in your head. All right, well, we'll continue the program today with a very interesting arrangement of a very familiar hymn tune, All Creatures of Our God and King, or You Watchers and Your Holy Ones, however you might have the text familiar in your head. This is a very rhythmic, but also very soft arrangement of this particular tune. The hymn tune is actually played exclusively by a trumpet stop in the feet, underneath a very rhythmic part in the hands, which I'll be playing on the bottom keyboard here. So unlike the first one where you were trying to find the melody, you'll definitely be able to find the melody, but you'll be wondering, how is this melody working with this rhythm and these harmonies that are being played in the hands? So I invite you to listen and to enjoy All Creatures of Our God and King. Thank you. That stop on the bottom keyboard was the choir diapason, or the principal, I guess we would call it. And it is just a solo voice all by itself, can really bring that depth and body, which is something we were really looking to do with this organ. One note about the console as well is that because you can see it, and you can actually see how it's functioning, I wanted to point out a little bit of how those characteristics actually do help in an organ recital such as this, where we have to program a lot of music, or for a wedding or for worship service. There are stops, obviously, here, and the combination of the stops is what you hear as the sounds that come out of the instrument, different stops coupled with each other. Well, in order for the organist not to have to redo all of the stops every single time and pull them manually, we can save them, and we put them on pistons, we call them, these buttons here, and it remembers your combinations that you've set. On the old organ, we only had about maybe 64 possible general pistons that could set the whole organ. Well, now we have 12 general pistons times 100 because it's a new computer. We live in a day and age now where we can just have endless ability. And the way that that works is you'll see me often up here pressing this button really fast. And what that's doing is that's just taking me to a different memory level that allows me to have a different set of combination stops. So every song has its own memory level on this program, and I set it so that I don't have to have an assistant up here helping pull stops. The other beautiful thing about this is that this has a recording feature as well, and it's in this secret drawer that pulls out underneath the keyboard here. I don't know if you can see that where it comes out. But this is there's a little computer screen here, and you can record yourself playing a song, go out, press play, and listen to it out there. And as an organist, it helps a lot because I can hear what it sounds like. The amazing thing in this space is that, and the choir will attest to this, the organs and the choir sound completely different when you are about here versus when you are here because of where that wall is. The chancel was designed to project the sound out. So when you're in the midst of it, it sounds very loud and sometimes very unbalanced. But the chancel works as a great mixer that allows the sound to go out. And the organ, this particular organ and the organ before, were designed to be able to project that way. So we'll continue on with the program now with my own arrangement of the tune Shenandoah. Now, I love this tune because it has a lot of beautiful musical characteristics. But its history actually begins with a folk tune that was sung as fur trappers would navigate the Missouri River, the wide Missouri. But actually didn't have anything to do with it. It had to do with an Indian chief, and that was his name. But what happened is that over time, this tune was passed down orally over and over again until finally people started to recognize it as just this beautiful melody and embraced its lyrics. And we often now associate it with the beauty and vastness of the Shenandoah Valley, which of course is nearby here. And so it pulls on my heartstrings in a lot of ways. I was, for that particular reason as well. I drove yesterday to meet my sisters in Fredericksburg, and I drove just through some of the hills of Virginia, and it just reminded me of the beauty of this state and the beauty of this area. And so I hope you'll kind of imagine that as I play this arrangement today. Thank you. I'll conclude the program today with one of my favorite pieces that I played here at First Presbyterian, quite often actually. It was, actually, I can think of 3 very memorable times in which I played it. The first was when I came to audition for the job. This was one of the pieces that I brought. And I thought, I love this piece, I've been playing it for a long time, and I wanted to show it as part of what I wanted to show, part of what some of my style of music was that I could bring. Secondly, I remember playing it shortly after I arrived here and got the job. So I thought, well, this is a good luck piece, I better keep playing it. So I played it a few weeks after my first Sunday. It wasn't my first Sunday, but a few weeks later. And then I played it as my last piece before I moved on back over to Idaho. And so I thought it'd be fun to close today's program with the Toccata by Georgi Mushel.